Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another Tuesday evening live. I am Dallas Cohen, the rebound coach, and I'm really happy to be here with you this evening. And today it's funny because we're talking all about emotional. I think I forgot what I called it. It's like emotional something wrangling. Hang on, I have to look at it and tell you what I titled this emotional sludge wrangling, which is part 2 of our Family Matters series. And I'm excited to share this with you today. Like, wait, what? What exactly is emotional sludge and why do I want to wrangle it? Okay, so has anyone ever been in your feelings? Just been in your feelings. Like I'm just kind of in my feelings right now. That's something we say in our culture, but really just kind of like moody, just not feeling it. You know, the stuff you normally are excited about, you're just not, and just like eh. So I found myself there actually for the past couple days, and it was from my own digging that we ended up here today. So I'm excited to share because I always grow when we do these lives together, and I'm hoping that you hear something that's going to help you grow as well. And so, if you are just coming on right now, or you're watching the replay, and you're like, "Who are you? And what are you talking about? What is this? Why should I listen to you? I don't know who you are." If you're in your feelings, just wanted to share a little bit about who I am and how we're having this conversation today. My name is Dallas Cohen. I'm the rebound coach. And before becoming the rebound coach, I had a very good upbringing. Two parents that loved God, they loved each other, they were married for a lifetime. And gave me a good example of what a good marriage could look like. My father was my mother's caretaker until she passed away several years ago. At the same time, I was molested from age 8 to age 16. And when you are sexually abused as a young person, that radically affects how you see yourself because your self identity is forming in those years. And I lived in a faith based home. So how I related to God was also affected, as well as how I related to men. And so fast forward, when I met the man I married, there were definitely red flags and there were signs that it wasn't going to be pleasant. However, I, number one, believed that God was with us. And number two, because I believed God was with us, I believed that whatever trouble came, we'd be able to overcome it or at the very minimum, outlast it. Well, trouble came right away and never quite went away. It was a cycle we were in that I call coping in crisis, where we were just kind of barely making it, and then there'd be a blow up, and we'd barely make it again, and then there'd be a blow up. Well, the blow ups became more and more severe as the years went forward. And in January of 2020, the man I had been married to for 9 years, almost 10 years at that point, left for another woman. And I found out the next day that him and that woman had been plotting my murder for months. Needless to say, that kind of puts a whole stop in anything you're doing. And it was a really serious moment for me. And I had to reevaluate everything because it threatened who I was as a human being, who I was as a mom, a wife, a child of God, and a coach. I had been coaching as a life coach for 20 years total, but at that time, 5 or 6 years in the relationship space. So if you can imagine kind of building an identity, building a platform on an idea about staying married and how that's the most important thing to do no matter what's going on, and having that very thing collapse at your feet. It was a very identity shaking kind of time. And so, through a divine set of events, I am alive. My children are safe. We're safe. And we're having this conversation today. So, I've also, out of that entire story, and yes, I did quit for a minute, but I came back to coaching and equipping others in relationships. And so, I wrote my story. It's called I Choose Life, Rewrite your love story and change your legacy. And it's not just a memoir, but it is a memoir. So if you're curious about how in the world I survived that situation, if you're curious about, well, why did she stay and how did this look? And I have lots of questions. This is how you find out. Um, it's not just a memoir, it is a map, and it's a way that you can find your way out of coping in crisis, no matter what that looks like in your life. So you can find that at thereboundcoach.com/book. That is thereboundcoach.com/book. It is on Amazon. You can purchase, the link is right on that web page, or you can get one of these hard copies from me and I will sign it and ship it to you. So want to tell you about that. And so I have been going live each week for a few months. So if this is your first time checking me out, you can see the other lives on our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/thereboundcoach. So I don't have that up here, but I probably should. Thereboundcoach.com is my main website. You can find everything there. But also, if you're watching this on Facebook, you can just click on Dallas Cohen, the Rebound Coach, and see all of the episodes. Last month, we had a really good series talking all about domestic violence. This month, we're talking on family matters. This is November. This is a time of Thanksgiving where people gather with their family members that they love or they don't like. It's where frenemies gather and pretend to like each other, and lots of other things going on. So I wanted to bring topics that would equip you in those areas. So last week we had a really good live, and then I was like, well, I don't know what I'm going to talk about today. And so I waited and waited and waited, and literally it was this morning, and it's because I was in my feelings about some other stuff. And I listened to this webinar that was talking about being authentic and coming to people in truth and authenticity. And so I was like, well, I'm in my feelings. And I thought, well, what do you do? What do you do when you're in your feelings? How do you, and let me go back and kind of define what that is before we climb out of it. But it's important to know not just, how to know where you're at, but what to do and why you should do, because it's not healthy to stay there. It's okay to be there. It's not healthy to stay there. And here's what I mean. So a few days ago, had kind of a perfect storm. So we had a really long day, running errands, doing different things. And I don't know about you, I am a planner kind of person. I do my best. It doesn't always turn out the way I want, but I do my best to plan my steps, plan my life to a certain degree, and kind of go along the path. And so I had a couple hiccups, which is life, normal life. And I had a situation, and I'd put a bunch of effort into a particular thing, and that shifted on me pretty rapid. And rapid change can be kind of disconcerting for a personality like mine. So there's other personalities that like thrive on that and need things to move and change constantly. I am not that person, although I like variety. I also like calculated risk. I like to see around the corner. I like to anticipate and, cover my bases and etc. So there was a sudden shift that came, and I was kind of scrambling, trying to handle it all. I had not eaten all day, and it was like 4 p.m. So I was hangry. So hangry, busy. There was lots of noise going on. This rapid change that was happening, that we were rushing to accommodate for the change. And I was just really frustrated. And the kids were asking me for something, and I was like, no. Maybe 2 or 3 no's in. And I was like, oh gosh, I'm not doing good. And so a friend of mine was like, how are you doing right now? And I was like, not so great. And they're like, well, what happened? I don't want to talk about it. Well, number one, because I really didn't have clarity on everything I was feeling. I just knew it didn't feel good. And number two, I didn't want to say anything rude. And I knew from the internal chatter that was going on in my head wasn't so good. So she's like, okay, okay. And so in my head, all this noise, lots of noise. And so in that evening, I kind of journaled and thought my way through some things. And so here's the thing: when you're in your feelings, when you're moody, when you are, even when you don't know what's going on with you, you just know you don't feel right. You're kind of snapping at people. It's a downer. It's not just an immediate downer. Like it's a downer for however long until you deal with it. And it can be that way for days, sometimes weeks, sometimes entire years or seasons of your life where you were just not okay. So it's important to be able to identify where you're at and make some changes so that you can be healthy for yourself and for the people you love. Okay, so what to do at family gatherings, all right, as you are preparing to perhaps host people in your home or to go to someone's home and eat a meal and sit around, and maybe you're like, I don't want to look at these people. I don't like these people. They don't like me. I'm just going to go because I'm supposed to go, and then I'm just going to hide. Right? Like that might be your skill. And this won't today. I don't expect this to be super long today. Like the old preachers used to say, I won't be before you long. But I do want to give you just a few tips on, what do you do when you're just in your feelings? Number one, don't run. So here's what we do often when, okay, I'm looking at it. All right. Hopefully this is not jumping around on you, but here's something to do when you got something going on. Often we reach for comfort or distraction when we've got some internal conflict. So I don't know, for me, I reach for food often. So chips and cookies and sweets and ice cream and random other things that I should not be eating. I reach for those things as distractions. Also television or Facebook or any social media. Plug in your distraction here. Some people reach for other people or just noise or sex or something. We can also call those love hungers. It's another word for that. But we're reaching for pleasure. We're reaching for a distraction. We're reaching for something to drown out the internal noise we've got going on. So all of those are examples of running from our emotions when we're in our feelings. So number one is don't run. Don't run. It is uncomfortable. Yes. You don't have the full picture or the full answer. Correct. But I need you to go ahead and sit in those feelings just long enough to get to what's going on, to get to the bottom of it. So number one is don't run. Number two is take time to get to the bottom of it. Now, I enjoy journaling. That works for me. You might need to talk. Okay. So you might need to write or create something. So I journaled that evening. I just journaled, and for me, because I'm like a super organizer kind of person, I wrote like surface level on why I'm upset, under the surface level of why I'm upset, deeper issues on why I'm upset. And so the surface issues were I was hungry. It had been a long day. There was a quick change, and that was hard for me to deal with. And I had put all this effort into this activity that suddenly I needed to make a big change with. And I was frustrated about my efforts going in a different way. Like I spent all this money in particular and effort for a certain outcome, and that outcome wasn't happening. And so that was kind of my surface level of upset. And then under it, I was like, okay, let's follow that path. All right. My efforts. So we're looking at my money effort And then, so this is the thing, your brain starts telling you other stuff. And ooh. And you take a pause and you go, what about that? What does that mean? What is that emotion? What is that line of thinking? And the more it told me, let it go. Now, normally it's a bad attitude, right? So I don't want to be a person who complains, even internally. I don't want to complain about someone that I love, right? Because you care about someone. I don't want to feel negatively towards someone that I love and someone who I want to love me, right? So that's internal. I don't want to feel that way. And externally, I don't want to feel that way. So what happens is when I hear myself complaining, there's complaining internal talk about someone I love, I normally shut it down. Hey, we don't complain. Or, I might change my perspective. Well, at least this good thing is happening. Well, I don't think it's like that. And it's good to change your perspective, but that shouldn't be step one. Step one is identify what the heck you're dealing with, because more often than not, what you're mad at for someone else isn't about them. It's most of the time about you. Most of the time, not always. So when you are super annoyed at somebody, don't stuff that down, especially if it's not the first time that little noise has come up for you. Don't stuff it down because it only gets louder. Let it talk so you know what you're dealing with and then address it. So for me, what I was hearing was, hey, you're making up for this person's slack. You're paying and they're not, and you're working and they're not, and you're doing this and they're not. Okay, thank you for saying that, inner voice. Now let's deal. So let's look at that. Is that true? Just because you feel a certain way doesn't make that thing true. It could be an experiential truth, meaning that's how you feel these series of events translate to, but that may not be what it actually translates to. And you don't know that unless you take the time to examine what's going on in your head. So, take that time. And so I was listening. I was like, is that really true? In this circumstance, is that true? No, in this circumstance, that is not true. So what that tells me is, all right, so what circumstance was it true in that I am still holding as eternal truth? And so I was looking at different scenarios. Well, when this happened, I felt like I was taking up the slack. And when that happened, I felt like I was taking up the slack. Okay, is it just with this person or is it with several people? It's with several people. And this one, and that one, and this one, and that one. Okay, now we're getting somewhere. All right. So we're not just dealing with the events of today. Or the person I was thinking of that day, going back. All right, well, I was picking up the slack with my ex-husband. I was paying all the bills and I was mad at him because he didn't pay any bills. He didn't work, he didn't pay any bills. I was keeping up the slack. All right, well, go back before then. When else did you feel that way? Well, I felt that way helping my parents, helping my dad after my mom died and he went bankrupt and I was picking up the slack. Okay, when else did you feel that way? Well, in my childhood, right? So tracing this all the way back. In my childhood, when my mom was sick and in the hospital all the time, there were, it felt like very long seasons where I was the only person working and I'm the child in the family, or I was the only one who had a vehicle and everyone was depending on me and it felt very heavy. So tracing that all the way back, it's like, okay, so this is a thread, Dallas. So we can't control what happened in childhood. We can't control what happened 20 minutes ago, right? The past is the past. What can we do going forward? And what made it okay for you to accept picking up the slack, right? What made you feel like that was your role? That was your job. And you did the things talking to myself, you did the things that made you feel like you were picking up the slack. So you complained internally about it, but yet you chose to do those actions. What's the difference there? So there's a technical, I won't say technical term for it, but there's something called the 5 whys that several professionals or gurus or mentors use to help you kind of get to the bottom of something. So what I just described is how I did that with a particular line of thinking, but you can literally start with any problem. I'm not responding well to my friend or family member here. So if you're going to go spend Thanksgiving with in-laws and outlaws and extended family members, and part of you is just kind of going, I wish I did not have to do that. Don't just stuff it down and keep pressing. Find out why. Sit down with yourself, journal. Another place to do is write. If you're a writer, you can poetry, write music, play music, or do artwork or paint or color or draw or something to express, or do, dance if you do physical stuff, or sports, whatever it is, to express what it is that you're feeling or thinking. Don't let it just sit. It never goes away. It normally grows and gets harder to kind of track down. So it's really our heart's cry that just amplifies. It's really a heart cry. So just like I explained a minute ago, I went from being frustrated with a current situation, when I sat down and really traced it back and went all the way back to childhood, when I felt that I was just taking up somebody's slack and somebody else could not handle their part of the responsibility and I had to make that up. So number one, all right, this is how I felt and throughout my life, and this is how I'm feeling now. That's step one. Step two is, all right, what are we going to do about that? What are we going to do about that? It's good to know where you are. Now we can make moves. Okay. So self-care / self-love is what we apply to those wounds when we hear our heart cry amplified. And so self-care, as you've heard me talk about before, isn't necessarily self-comfort. Self-comfort can be things like bubble baths or long walks or massages or TV or foot soaks or food. Those can be self-comforts, and definitely in excess, they are not so healthy for us. Self-love is, well, I'll say includes self-work. So some of those things we were talking about, journal, emote, talk if you need to talk. Like some people need to verbally process. You can do that with a trusted friend. You can do it with a stranger. The internet is full of strangers. And lots of people talk with others about random stuff. I'll tell you this too. This is something that's just going on in our day and age. So I have a show that I'm following. I don't follow lots of shows, but one of them I do. It's kind of a guilty pleasure, so I'm not going to tell you the title. However, I've been watching it, and it's an engrossing show, and literally you feel like I just felt like after I watched the first episode, I'm like, man, I need to talk about this with someone. Well, it's not a show that my kids see with me, right? So there's no discussing it in our household. And I'm like, man, who do you know? So back in the day, it's crazy. This is crazy. Okay. It's crazy to say back in the day when we used to go into work. Like, that's nuts. But back in the day when we used to go into work, people would stand around the water cooler and talk about the football game or the latest saga or whatever headlines was going on in the news, right? There was a camaraderie around whatever was going on, and you had the chance to kind of process events together. Well, depending on your perspective, it's kind of a thing it's not the way it used to be, and it will never go back. So that water cooler business is just, and you may or may not have been the kind of person to do that, even when you did go into an office. So I needed to talk about the episode I had just watched. And so I found a fan group on Facebook and was like, wow, I'm so glad that other people are doing this too. And so we watched the episodes together, and, we're all, putting in comments and, oh my gosh, did you see that? I can't believe it. Oh, wow. I love it. I hate it. I'm angry. I cried. All the things. You're sharing those emotions together. And that is something that we need as human beings. It's so important. it is emotionally nourishing to know we're not alone. We are people created for relationship. We are created to interact with each other. We're created to need each other as much as, we don't like that because there's pain involved in vulnerability. And often, you live long enough, you've been vulnerable enough, you've been hurt. It's guaranteed. This is human nature. It's just part of life. And so naturally wanting to self-protect, we don't want to be vulnerable or be in places where we are vulnerable, but it's so necessary. When we cut off vulnerability, we also cut off ways to nurture us. If you imagine a bridge. So you're standing at one end of the bridge and love is standing at the other end, and vulnerability is that bridge, and support's on the other end, and camaraderie is on the other end, and vulnerability is the bridge. And so often, we would go across vulnerability, and sometimes we don't find love there, right? We might find shame there, we might find pain there, because someone else didn't have what you needed and gave you what they had instead, and that didn't meet the expectation. And that happens long enough when we say, nope, I'm taking my bridge up, forget it. And we take our bridge up like the drawbridge. If you know the drawbridge that would come down like this, so you take your bridge up. Nope, I'm not going over there. The problem is all the love and support is on the other side of the bridge. And so vulnerability is the way we get there. So even sharing, and someone has shared in that group recently, just saying, they felt lonely and felt like no one could see them or hear them. And, I was honored, even though, that's not what the group is for, but just to say, hey, thank you for sharing. I see you. It's such a positive thing. And it helps people feel not alone. And I felt not alone doing that. And so I encourage you, find places, safe places. If you want a safe place on the internet to emote, you can do that on our Facebook group. I have a couple Facebook groups, but one in particular for relationship is called Team #Covenant Warriors. Team #Covenant Warriors. And you can talk about whatever's going on in your relationship. It's a relationship themed group, but relationship with yourself, relationship with your family members, relationship period. Feel free to come chat and not feel alone, because we're here to support each other. So what to do when you're in your feelings? Number 1, don't run. Number 2, take time to get to the bottom of it. Number 3, self-love, self-care. Okay. Forgive. That's another big thing. When you realize who you're upset with, whether that's a factual offense or not. So often when we're examining what we're in our feelings about, we might be like, man, that's not even true. Like the example I shared with you earlier, I was upset at someone and had a story in my head that was not true for the situation. Now, that has nothing to do with your feelings. Your feelings and the truth are two different matters. So it's like, your subconscious, if you've ever watched something scary on TV and had a nightmare, you know what this is like. Your brain knows what's on television is on television and not in your house. It's not real. Those are actors. Those are special effects. It's not for real. But your subconscious does not know that, which is why you can go to bed and have a nightmare after watching, a horror flick. So your emotions is a different story. So the same goes here. If you're in a situation where you're offended, especially with another person, okay, you're telling yourself a story. That story might be true. It might not be true. If you examine things, you go, you know what? That story's not true. That doesn't mean you don't have to deal still, because your heart is like, yes, it is. And I'm upset. Why? Like that's still going on. So you need to forgive whoever you are offended with. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily you're having a conversation with them, especially if you're mad about something that's not true. Like it's not true. You just need to handle your own business. Right. Sometimes it is good, and sometimes it's possible to have a conversation with someone who has offended you. Sometimes that's not possible, or it doesn't even make sense because the offense is an internal one. So in either case, you can forgive, release, and bless a, a person, God, a situation, the past, an institution, like whatever it is you need to release from offending you, release them, it, when, whatever it is, because it sets you free and you can't move on without that part. You can try, but you just drag the offense with you and it gets nasty and infected and horrible things happen. So, in your self care, in your journaling, in your releasing, in your emoting, however you choose to do that, make sure you are also forgiving. Very important step. And then number 4, this is my last step, y'all. Find a solution to the problem. Whatever that is, and find out how you are going to walk forward. Like, okay, so I was upset. I found out why. It wasn't even true. I forgave. Now, okay, so what I need to do, I had an awkward, I'm gonna say conversation. I won't say impasse. I wanted to say impasse, but just an awkward kind of situation. All right, so that's not rectified. I'm gonna have to somehow rectify that. So, all right, so that's thinking through how I want to talk about what happened, how I want to phrase things. When do I want to have such a conversation? How do I want to have that conversation? Do I need to submit something in writing? Now, I can be a little weird and kind of formal like that. Not everyone needs to do that. Sometimes you can just sit down and speak your heart. Sometimes you need to write your heart. And that's what I tend to do. That's what I tend to do. Sometimes I get to read that and sometimes not. But you can write your heart down and just, here's how I was feeling. I'm so sorry for coming off weird. I was having a bad day. Here's what was going on with me. Please forgive me. Or when I looked under the surface, I found that I was feeling XYZ about when you did XYZ. And the way my mentor phrases it, I really enjoy when she's teaching us about these conversations. She says, when you did X, I chose to feel. Chose being the operative word, because we are in complete control of our emotions. Whether we choose to use that control or not is up to us, but we are in control of our emotions and we choose to feel however we choose to feel. And the beautiful thing is you have the power to choose differently. Not lie to yourself. Okay. So sometimes when we don't want to have a negative emotion, we lie to ourselves to create something else. That's not a sustainable strategy. Okay. That might get you through the moment, but it doesn't get you through the relationship. And the goal here is healthy relationships with yourself and with others. So when you are thinking through that conversation you might want to have with someone, when this happened, I chose to feel, and tell the truth. Tell the truth. Do not say things in a way that you are trying to control someone else's response. You're not in control of anyone else's response. Not now, not in the past, not ever. You're only in control of your response. Now, that does not mean to be rude. Does not mean to be rude or nasty or condescending or self-righteous or any of those negative adjectives. Okay, this is not about that. This is about being honest with yourself, with anyone that you care about, and anyone you'd like to keep in good relationship with. I don't know about you. I know what it's like when someone's lying to me, right? Like you can feel when someone's not being genuine. You can feel a frenemy when they're smiling at you and it's not a real smile. Like you've heard the phrase, the smile does not go up to their eyes. It's a fake, it's some weird thing that they're doing with their face. And you can tell. So people can tell. You can tell. Don't lie to yourself. Don't lie to this other person. Tell the truth. When this happened, I chose to feel. Tell the truth. This, and this. I realized that wasn't the truth. The truth is, and then tell the truth. The truth is, you're not out to get me. I am not making up for your failures and your or inadequacies. And if ever I was doing so, it's because I was enabling and I was doing too much. Not that you had asked me to do too much. So that was my situation. But fill in the blank for you and tell the truth. Those conversations are such bridge builders because you were vulnerable. Okay. You shared the truth, your truth. I chose to feel XYZ. Please forgive me for, right? And move forward with that. Um, my mentor uses phraseology, uses phrases like, I'd like to be held accountable to not doing this again, not enabling again, not holding a grudge again, not popping off at my kids when I'm annoyed, because that was this one over here. All of those things. Will you hold me accountable to not do XYZ again? Thanks so much. Is there anything you would like to share with me? Not like, and you need to apologize for it. That's not what we're doing. Okay. Nope. Again, we cannot control someone else's response. Stop trying. It's futile mission. Okay. The only thing you can do is control your own response. So offer forgiveness, ask forgiveness, leave space for someone to share anything they want to share. And if they don't, that's okay too. It's okay too. You're only responsible for your part. So those are my steps on what to do when you're in your feelings, especially if you are anticipating maybe some challenging times dealing with family or extended family or friends or loved ones that you might be spending some holiday time with. I hope this equips you. If you're just joining us, feel free to go back and watch the recording. I gave 4 simple strategies on how to heal essentially and how to deal when you are in your feelings and when it's just you just might be mopey or lonely. I will stress this though, no matter what, if it's holiday time or not, or if it's family members you're dealing with or not, you don't have to do this alone. You do not have to do this alone. I am here for you, and there's many, many others who want to come along and love and support you. You don't have to feel lonely or anxious or depressed or suicidal or angry all by yourself. Please, please reach out. Don't do this by yourself. You can always contact me. My inbox is open. Hi, Kathy. Thank you for joining me. Yes, lots to unpack for sure. This is such an important time in the year where a lot of people are dealing with old wounds because they're dealing with family and friends again. This is certainly different than it has been in years past where, it was guaranteed everyone was going to be face to face. That's not the guarantee anymore, but it is a guarantee that we are dealing with people and loved ones and family members that normally represent can represent, I'll say, old wounds. And so it's an important time to kind of have some tools in your back pocket and strategies you can use. That this doesn't have to end up in a meltdown for yourself or anybody else. Doesn't have to, at least as far as you're concerned. You have some strategies. So I want to share just a really quick testimony of someone who read the book, I Choose Life. And this is Jennifer and her testimony.
Hey guys, I'm Jen, and I read this book, I Choose Life. It's definitely worth reading. I could not put it down, and I very much identify with certain parts of this story as a domestic violence survivor myself. And any woman who is a survivor of any kind needs to read this book. It will change you.
Okay. Very sweet and to the point. I was very blessed by her testimony and that she enjoyed it so much. And you just never know. I got to know Jen from years ago, and when this book came out, I had no idea that she had any, way to identify with my story, but she did, and so I'm very glad that she was blessed And if you know anyone who's dealt with domestic violence, or you have a sneaking suspicion that they might be, get this book for them. Christmas is coming. It's a great gift for anyone you love, or anyone who likes to read like murder mysteries and stuff. Again, it's called I Choose Life, Rewrite Your Love Story and Change Your Legacy. You can get that at thereboundcoach.com/book. The link to the Amazon page is there, or you can also purchase a hard copy from me and I will sign it, or sign it to whomever you want me to sign it to, and mail it to them. All right. So again, thank you so much for spending part of your evening with me. I appreciate your time today. And until next time, choose life.